Ken Sheldon was a triple premiership player at Carlton who was discarded by the Blues at 27. He later coached St Kilda and boasted a 55% win rate when he was dumped by the Saints after 4 years. Welcome, Kenny. Any lingering hard feelings? I mean, there are two hard luck stories there.
Oh, yeah, but no real hard feelings, but I'm not sure discarded is the right word, Mike.
St Kilda? St Kilda or Carlton?
Probably both.
Both?
Yeah.
So you chose to leave Carlton at 27, did you?
Well, I didn't really have the backing of the coach at that point. I'd made a bit of an error, if you like.
Explain, please.
A bit of a slip after the 86 loss.
So all right, let's set the scene. You've played 3 games at the end of the 86 home and away series.
Yeah.
Right? You'd worked hard on the coach to give you the opportunity to sort of prove that you deserved a spot in the finals team. And he declined that invitation from you, didn't he? And left you out.
Oh, yeah, and that's why he was such a great coach. He could make a hard call like that. I think you need to, as a player, you need to be playing for your coach. And at that time, we weren't that close. Because of my error, under the influence of, after the 86, trying to point out to him how he might actually win one.
I need some more information about this. So you've blued with Wolsey's told you. Wolsey's a former teammate of yours and a friend, and he's the coach of the Blues, and he says to you, Kenny, I'm not playing in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you reacted negatively?
Yeah, but not so much then. You can't upset the apple cart there because for your teammates, there's a chance there that they can win the flag. So it's not about you. You've got to dilute that and absorb that, and just play your part, whatever it may be that they ask, which I was quite happy to do and did, I thought, reasonably well because we won the flag in the twos. But the seniors were belted. It was it was just, I suppose you've got to lose one before you win one.
Yep.
The following year I was able to address that, but he certainly wasn't going to have me in part of those plans because of the the altercation, I suppose, that we'd had. It was no big deal, but I knew that I didn't have him in my corner. I was offered the opportunity to play on at the
to stay at the Blues in 87.
Yeah, the negotiations in those days were done by Wes Lofts. 19 grand was the amount to stay there, which was no big deal either. Like, it didn't worry me that it was less money. That didn't.
Down from what, Kenny? 19 and what had you been on previously?
I was always incentive based, Michael, and you always had the opportunity of earning, way north of that. But if you didn't have the senior coach in your corner, that's why you play footy, I reckon. You play for your mates, you play because you love it. But I think the clubs that win them all, they really love and aspire and respect their coach, and they just go that extra.
Okay, my memory is that your form in the home and away series was pretty average.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my fault both with the tongue and also with the output.
When you say the tongue, you keep implying
well, I was cheeky
something.
Little bugger, mate.
Yeah, I know, of course you were. But what did you say? What did you say to the coach when he said you're out of the finals?
No, we have. One thing I always did with the coaches was always respected and accepted what they said straight off.
Okay, so was there a subsequent message at the end of the seseason?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After the loss and the Monday wake and everything, and you just get a bit loose with your lips. So
you still won't tell me, will you?
Well, I let him know in no uncertain terms that unless he changed his way and got a few of the players actually really playing for him, then he could miss another one because the talent was there.
Okay, so it was a matter of his...
Because it was right there, right on the nose.
Okay, good, because it all happened in a hurry for you, didn't it? You made you down from Midiamo, make your AFL debut at 17 years of age. Yeah. You play in your first premiership at 19, and you got 3 flags to your name at 22.
Yeah, it did, Mike. At 17, we come to Melbourne, and look, I was a country boy from the farm, and all I wanted to do was play 100 games, play in a premiership, and hopefully play for Victoria and return home, back to the farm. That was my plan. Anyway, I got to 97 games, and I'm still here.
Yeah. No, look, looking back through your history, I mean, at 19, you're a premiership player. And you're the club's leading goal kicker at Carlton with 53. Yeah. I mean, the world was your oyster then, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't much we couldn't do. We had, there were some exceptional players at the club. Like, it didn't quite work in 78, but 79 we won the second semi and the grand final.
There was an incident of some note in the 79 grand final, wasn't there, involving you?
Well,
you and Harmsy. You mentioned Harmsy. I've heard you interviewed before, and you did say that you're asked about the harms slap back from the boundary line probably once a day, sometimes more often.
Yeah, that's true. That's
You're in the goal square, Harmsy's at the boundary line, wet day, he smacks the ball back, you pick it up and kick the goal, and that ends up being the winning margin.
Yep, that's still talk every day of my life, I would say, with few exceptions. That goes by. But, you know, the reason that happens is Wayne's one of the best players, pound for pound, that the competition's ever seen. And he's a Norm Smith medalist, deservedly so. He was an explosive type player. Could jump his own height, quick as quick, strong as strong, just incredible. And we had him up our sleeve. It was just a matter to ignite him at some stage during a game, and you get 5 or 10 or 15 minutes out of him, and it'd change the game.
Is it true that when a Collingwood supporter asks you, you tell them it was a couple of metres over the boundary line?
Yeah, you'd look at them right in the eyes, and you get a great response. It's good fun.
Explain to us this, Ken. You're not tall, and you've led the goal kicking at Carlton in a premiership year with 53, and you've had 9 bags of 3 or more.
Yeah.
Describe how you can do that at your size. I mean, I suppose Eddie Betts can do it, can't he? I mean, you were a bit different to Betts, weren't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, very different. But you know, he's a much better player than I ever was, I think. But you look at, we had one forward in Mark McClure, and we would be running all directions. So all you had to do was isolate your player one out, and we were reasonably good at one-on-one. Fair group of us, and we were educated to win the one-on-ones, and we're also educated to run hard to the front and square, of which I was probably pretty reasonable at too, being able to crumb the ball off the pack or get it as it's skidded over the back or to the side.
This is my memory of you. You were brilliant on your feet. I rarely saw you on the ground, clean with your hands, and read it well, and a great goal sense. Yeah,
well, we played Hawthorn, and you'll love this one. For some reason, I'm on Lee Matthews just for a moment in the game. And the ball came over the back, and I was in the slot, and I knew that if I didn't take this ball cleanly...
he was going to take you cleanly.
I might not be playing too many more games. Anyway, I did take that ball cleanly, and I scooted out of there, and I sort of had the confidence then to say, well, you know, I reckon I can match this.
OK.
Yeah.
You were part of what was the famous Carlton mosquito fleet. I mean, that's been used at a lot of clubs, but in the time you were there, it was used. David Parkins says, Parker can make big statements, but he did say it's the best brigade of small men that he's seen in the game. So I want you to rate these for me, Kenny. Armstrong, who you played a little bit with, Barry Armstrong.
Yeah.
These blokes, Ashman, Buckley, Harms, maybe Trevor Keogh, Alex Marcoux. Yeah,
well, they're all great players, and there's some best and fairest winners in there, and I think Jimmy, pound for pound, was probably better than them all. You know, 16-year-old.
Jimmy Buckley.
Yeah, probably a bit biased because I did play schoolboy football alongside him, and you know, we're great mates. But pound for pound, you know, like he'd kill him in today's footy. Just delivering that ball with precision and just tough and hard, just continuing to butter up. He's an enormous player.
When we come back, let's reflect on your time in charge of the Great Plugger Locket. Must have been a culture shock for you leaving Carlton, leaving Princes Park, heading south to Moorabbin, where you played for 3 years.
Well, it was, yeah. That year, 1979, I think we won 21 of 23 games to have the flag. Well, I don't think I played in that many wins.
Well, I'll tell you what you did do it. You played in 15 finals for Carlton, and you played in 14 wins for St Kilda. So I mean, it was markedly different, wasn't it?
It was, and the major reason, though, was that the Saints, we just didn't have any money, you know, at all.
Well, 6 Carlton blokes went there in the space of 2 years. What were they going for playing for the love of the jumper or not? Though obviously you blokes were getting paid at Moorabbin.
Yeah, me personally, it was an incentive-based contract again. But I went there because my great mates Peter McConville and Wow Jones.
So they went there in 86?
Yeah.
And you followed in 87 with Alex Marcoux?
Yeah.
Spiro Corcomelis?
Yeah. Ian Muller.
And
then I think Ricky Nixon and then I think Glasgow might have come down even later on. So there was a few that...
what was the attraction? Was it because you blokes were all mates, was it?
Yeah, pretty much so, Mike. Like Alex could have went to the Brisbane Bears, and I was actually going to be assistant coach at Fremantle.
Really?
Yeah, going to take off with Graham Melrose, so that would have been an interesting chapter.
Yeah.
But we decided that we'd continue on, and I'm so glad we did, because it's a great place.
You had 3 more years as a player, and then you complete that career at 29.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're the coach of the Saints.
Yeah.
Tell us how that came about.
Well, Darryl Baldock was the coach, and he was, ill. So he wasn't going to continue on. So the club had sounded me out about maybe 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks prior to the end of the year.
Yep.
I thought I was going in to see them about playing another year, because I was actually going okay. Playing in the back pocket, I couldn't believe how easy it was, Mike. I kept kicking it to you. and I thought, but they asked me to consider, because I had an innate understanding of how the football club was working. Like I put a lot of time and effort in there, just trying to get some confidence in the place. And it was good. We had some great people, and we were able to turn it around a bit.
You had 4 years as a coach. I'm intrigued by this. 4 years as a coach at St Kilda. You missed the finals in your first year with a reasonable return. Then you play finals 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
In your 4th year, you win half your games, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Then there's got to be an explanation that we're not sure about here.
Yeah, there probably is. Like any club, I suppose, when expectation, exceeds delivery. We'd been down for so long.
Before you got there, they hadn't played finals for 17 years.
Yeah.
In the coaching box, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So where are the expectations then? If this team hasn't been in the finals for 17 years, how are they expecting you to win a flag?
Well, I think if you lined up the likes of Lockett, Lowe, David Grant, Danny Frawley, those type of players, and you combine those with Robert Harvey, Jason Daniels, Nathan
They were
Bird.
kids then, weren't they?
Yeah, only ferrets, but they're pretty talented boys.
Yeah.
Nicky Winmar in there. Nicky's probably the most exciting Indigenous player I've ever seen. I think he's the first to play 200 games, and he was an enormous player. So we had a good breadth of top end talent.
One of those personalities was a bloke called Anthony Plugger Locker.
The best player I've ever seen.
Best player you've ever seen?
Yeah, by a long way.
By a long way?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you saw him close up for 4 years, so I accept that. Yeah.
As a coach, I sent him for 4 years, and as a teammate, I sent him for 3.
Yeah.
And, like at Carlton, Bruce Dool, Craig Bradley, there was Lethal, and there was your Gary Abletts and your Malcolm Blights and
Wayne
Timmy
Carey.
Watsons and your Wayne Careys, and they're all there.
And this bloke's the best player by a long way.
In my view.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had something, you knew how to make him tick, Kenny. He had your 4 years at St Kilda, he kicked 377 goals.
Yeah.
Now, how did you handle him? I mean, you wouldn't have handled him like everyone else on the list.
No.
What was your secret?
Well,
you and Hutto worked together, Peter Hudson.
Yeah, we did, and Gary Colling.
Yep.
We had a lot of, but one-on-one was the secret. Just go and spend time with Tony, talk about all sorts of things. Greyhounds quite often.
Yeah.
All sorts of things, but deep down, he was a real competitor, had a lot of pride, but he also had some difficulties in getting himself to a physical state of fitness required to play the game, like as an asthmatic and a large man. But we used to work on those things, and he was just like round 8 in 1990. He's kicked 8. I think at about maybe the 15-minute mark of the second quarter against North Melbourne on Mick Martin, and he does his knee. So we win 9 games that year. The following year, I think he kicks maybe 120.
He kicked 127 goals in 91 and 132 in 92.
He kicks 8 goals in his first ever final, opening up. I think the following year he might have kicked 5 or whatever, but. One of the best stories ever with Tony was against Melbourne in the 1992 season. We had to win that game to play in the finals. And 3/4 time, we were about even with them. And my 3/4 time speech, as I'd been off and seen Tony prior to meeting the huddle, was no matter what happens here, if we just hold the ball in there, can you kick 4? Because I think if you can, we can win it. And he said, I'll kick 4, no problem. You know, and he did.
And he did.
And we won.
Wow.
And he. Look, there's a lot of myths and a lot of stories, but genuine, that man is a really good fellow, and he was just he was the best player I've ever seen.
Was he difficult to control, and did you bend your rules that applied to everyone else for Plugger?
I couldn't sit here and say we didn't, but we tried to stay a firm line, and so did he. You know, he really did try to work with us. Like he loved his teammates and he loved the whole show. But you know, there were some times that things got a bit wide and varied.
Like?
Well, he loved his greyhounds.
Yeah.
And that was my deal with him too, was to let him, you know, shoot off to places like Orange and different places to
watch his dogs.
To watch his dogs.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you're trying to play league elite football and you're sitting in a car for 9-10 hours eating dim sims and you know, it's a bit hard. So we used to talk about those things, but you know,
And you turned a blind eye to that, did you?
Well, I used to allow that, but the media would then pick up and beat on it that he wasn't at training or that he, you know, it was quite farcical, really. But yeah, you know, we were working together behind the scenes for that.
So you knew what made him work.
Well, I think so.
Yeah. When he transgressed, Ken, and he did you have to bite your tongue to not treat him like everyone else? Or did you actually lay it on the line, eyeball him and sort of say, that's not good enough, we're not tolerating that?
Absolutely, I've done that a few times.
With Plugger?
Yeah, and there was a little room, there's a little room at the property room at Moorabbin, and there's only one door in and one door out. And I remember very nearly making a mistake. I sort of led him into that room, and when I realised what I was about to say, I shuffled him around so I could get out.
So you were closer to the door. Yeah, okay.
But, you know, he was actually one of the key reasons as to probably why I never continued coaching at St Kilda.
Why?
Well, the club, they wanted to sell him. I remember sitting with Alan McAllister and Travis Pays, and in his...
Alan McAllister was president of Collingwood?
Yeah.
Travis Pays was St Kilda's president?
Yeah, in his East Boundary Hotel.
Yep.
Yeah. And they'd offered $1 million in cash for Lockett.
To the footy club or to Plugger?
No, to the footy club.
To the footy club?
Yeah. And that, you know, this is a club that had no dough, and we at that point were shifting to Waverley to play our home games just to stay alive, you know.
Gee.
Yeah, so, you know, Peter Hudson, myself, and you know, the board and everybody, but my recommendation was to hang on to the golden egg. You know, like that was it. He's the best player that I've ever seen, and my club wants to sell him, and so
because
I was
$1 million is a golden egg too, mate.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I was fighting hard to keep him because, you know, effectively I knew if he was gone, it wouldn't be too long before I'd be gone because, you know, history said that at the Saints.
What do you say when Travis Pays and his cohorts say to you, Bomber, we can get $1 million for Plugger, gets us out of the hole, we can buy new players, draft and stuff like that? How do you say to them that's the wrong strategy? Because
history had always said it was at the Saints. So how are we going to change it? Just like that. You've got to give your supporters hope. Lockett was hope. Mm-hmm. I
was going to ask you about probably the most celebrated moment of your coaching career, and you know how we look at the dark things. It was round 12, 1992. Do you remember the game at the MCG, St Kilda's playing Collingwood? You've come down. You know where this is going.
There might have been 80-odd thousand people.
There were 80,000 witnesses, yeah. And you've come down from the coaching box and you've obviously called Craig Devonport from the field to make a point to him.
Yeah. And a very strong point, might I say.
It was a very strong point. Did you not grab him by the jumper and pull him in towards you?
Yeah,
well, because he couldn't hear you.
That's right. A bit hard of hearing, Craig.
What did you say, Kenny?
Front and square. Front and square.
So you dragged him from the ground and remonstrated with him to tell him to be front and square.
Yeah. Low and Lockett, where are you going to be, Mike? You know, if you want to feed. Front and square, right? And yet he wasn't there. And from that point on, he started to, he responded. And
do you remember who kicked the winning goal that day?
Yeah, and you know the irony of it? he picked it up from the boundary.
Did he? So he wasn't
Picked it up wide. But
He kicked 2 late goals and you win the game.
He did, Craig. Yeah. And then you, the media, you're very cagey, you blokes.
I'm not in the media. I'm retired.
Yeah, I understand. But back in those days, you and Trevor Grant and the different guys, you split us as we come in and got a different story from both, or tried to. But thankfully, Craig was able to just say, well, scary eyes, and I was able to just say, well, front and square, which was sort of where it was.
Time over again, Ken. Is it a good look for a coach to do that to one of his players?
No, it's not. No. Time over again, I probably wouldn't do that. But again, there's many moments in a coach's box that you wouldn't like to have captured on video.
Yep.
Like punching the wall or just childish, silly things. But that's how it gets you. Like you go into it a reasonable man, you come out the other end, I think, a little bit different.
When you left after the 93 season, this is one of the most staggering statistics of my time following football. You leave in 1993, you've coached the footy club for 4 years. You are the second longest serving coach in St Kilda's history. What does that say about the way that they treated the people they put in charge?
Well, I guess that sort of explains my disappointment in not being reappointed. I've never said anything because you don't need to, but history just says, unfortunately, how immature we were as a club in those days.
Let's turn to family. You and Wendy have got 4 kids.
Yeah, we do.
Sammy, your son, played 40-odd games with the Brisbane Lions.
Yeah.
It's difficult for a father to appraise the performances of his son. Was he unlucky? Should he have got more opportunities?
We just missed out on that breakout game, I think, Mike, when you look back. Like, he was 17 when he left home. Gubby come and got him.
Yeah, Gubby. That's the great Gubby. The notorious Gubby Allen, yeah.
Yeah, and he just missed out on that breakout game, I reckon. Play your role, and he'd kick 1 or 2, but he never had his 4 or 5er, He's a great kid. He's exited the game really well.
Yep.
He's really rounded, and very proud of him.
3 girls.
Yeah.
Melissa, Lauren, Carly.
Yeah.
Melissa has got a profile in her own right. She contracted melanoma about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, 7.
She's been ravaged by melanoma.
She has, Mike. It's been absolutely, well, it's just been all over the shop. It's an incredible journey.
And you've told me this, so I'm not breaking confidence here. Twice you've sat with her and held her hand and said goodbye. Yeah,
that's but thankfully the benefits of medicine and skilled doctors, professors, just amazing. So but that girl, she's tough.
Yes, she is.
She's resilient. She's got a great desire to live. She really works hard at her health, really works hard at understanding what makes her tick, and really works hard at understanding what it is that they're trying to do, trying to help her with. And she has a great belief in the people that are helping her. The professors and the doctors. She's right in their corner with them, and it's an inspiration to watch unfold and support.
But you've also said, and Melissa knows, I mean, it's a terminal condition, isn't it?
It is, Mike. Yeah, there's no cure at this point, and she's a cat with more than 9 lives, frankly, and it's an amazing journey. No
one smiles more than you do and means it like you do. What about at home, inside the 4 walls of the Sheldon household? How difficult is it to maintain that optimistic attitude that you've got?
It is difficult, there's no question, and you do have your moments, but not for too long. I'm glad to say that my wife Wendy and all my kids they've all grown with this happening with Melissa. It's brought everybody, it's lifted everybody's game. It's an incredible place to be around, and whilst you wouldn't wish it on anybody, we're going to make the most of what it is, and because like that, you're not here. So you wake up in the morning and you've got to be prepared to get on with it, and that's so there are their moments, but not for too long, Mike, and Yeah, not for too long.
I don't want to push you too far here. It's a really raw and sensitive issue. But you say the darkest times. Is there one moment in the last 7 or 8 years where you've just despaired of what was ahead of you?
Yeah, it was the Richmond-Carlton game, opening of the season 3-4 years ago. And I walked from Peter Mac down to the opening of the game, where I had a table of friends that we were going to share the evening with, and I well knew that as I walked off there, that might be the last time I'd ever see Melissa.
Jeez.
Anyway, I was sitting there, you know, I did my bit with my friends and sort of welcomed them and all settled in for the game, but before that ball bounced, I was gone. I was back there beside her bed, and that was a pretty tough few hours. And the footy results had come and go, and I didn't even know what they were, obviously. And somehow during the night, she mustered the courage to hang on. And so you know, that was probably it. And then I said, well, you know, during that, okay, I was cool enough and calm enough to really not let anybody know what was going on. I was able to do what I needed to do and still be there to support. So, you know, that's what you've got to do. You have no choice. You just got to step up to the plate and use everything within you that you've been taught and educated to, and you just got to bring it out on the table and support.
You were entitled to be extremely proud. There's a fundraiser for Melissa at the Wheelers Hill pub, I think. Wheelers Hill pub.
Yeah.
The footy family and your extended family, just amazing support. Raised over $100,000.
Yeah.
And you were able to get the medicine. I think the Ronnie Walker medicine, isn't it?
Right.
That just changed her life.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that medicine was, was 37 grand a pop at those stages.
Wow.
And it was pretty regular. That had to happen. And it's on the PBS now, thankfully. And, you know, others that are following can now, you know, reap the benefits of that, thankfully. But, you know, it's the case with so many medicines in this country, worldwide for that, but in this country, it's just advancing at such a rate now. It's just exciting. You know, there'll be so many young people that are given a second and third opportunity to live a reasonable level of a healthy life because of the advances in that medical research.
Ken, yours is a brilliant story, and I mean that, and you've told it brilliantly today. It's, I've been fascinated with your journey and admire so much your bravery talking about the domestic situation. So it's great to get in front of you and nice to catch up.
Thank you, Michael.
This has been a Fox Footy production, part of the Fox Sports Network.